think I have everything. I'm not 100% sure, but good evening, everybody. The time is now 7:01. I would like to call the special meeting of the RTM meeting for Monday, September 22nd to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Campo, roll call, please.
Miss Agman Bosa. Here. Mr. Bono.
Here.
Miss Pershali. Miss Casper. Miss Childs. Here. Mr. Clonis. Here. Mr. Condon. Here. Mr. Dembeck.
Here.
Miss Driscoll. Here. Mr. Fioravanti. Here. Mr. Goldstein.
Here.
Miss Gonzalez. Here. Miss Green.
Here.
Mr. Healy. Here. Miss Jessic. Here. Mr. Keatley. Miss Khan, here. Miss McKenzie, here. Mr. Monahan, here. Miss Mooreshead, here. Mr. Muckle, here. Miss Mullen, here. Miss Mullen-Cole, Mr. Olinsu, here. Miss Stewart-Gelinas, here. Mr. Segru. Here. We have a quorum.
Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of housekeeping chores. First, I'd like to congratulate and recognize Chris Muckle and welcome him to the RTM as the new district representative for District 2. In addition to that, just so everybody knows, we are being taped for YouTube. It's the second time. It's going to be commonplace, so please make sure that if you're speaking, that your light is on green, and that if you're not speaking, please make sure it's off on red because it will pick you up if it stays on. So please, a gentle reminder to make sure it's on when you need it and off when you don't need it. And please make sure it's close enough to you so people can hear. And with that, we'll move on to item C, correspondence. At your tables or also electronically in your package, you received a update from Representative Olinsu regarding the Fire Services Special Committee. In addition to that, on your table from Representative Driscoll was a supplementary regarding the Fire Services Special Review Committee. And you also received tonight at your desk from Attorney Keppel a legal opinion regarding the Fire Services Special Review Committee. All right. With that, we're going to move on to item D, public comment. Public comment is a time for anybody in the audience to speak about any item that they wish to, even if it's not on the agenda. Please be advised that there will not be a back and forth between the RTM members and the public. It is your time to give any type of comment on something that may be concerning to you. In addition to that, if it's not within the RTM's peer review, what you may be concerned about, we will try and direct you to the proper department to get the answers that you are looking for. In addition to that, please be respectful of the person commenting. Do not interrupt or heckle because it would be not kind or responsible to the person commenting or to the body at large. With that, first on public comment, I have Mark Balistrasi. Just please make sure the mic's on, Mark.
Good evening. I know the firehouse is not on your agenda tonight for a vote, but I'm here for a different issue, so I was hoping to just read my prepared comments on it. I mean no disrespect. I'll be looking down to read my comments to make sure I stay within the 3-minute timeline. Good evening. Tonight I wanted to take a minute or two to voice my support for the new Oswegatchie Firehouse. Although I sit before you as a town's police chief, I spent 4 terms on the RTM. 1 term on the Board of Selectmen, was actually a member of the Oswegatchie Building Committee while serving on the Board of Selectmen. In 2014, when I campaigned for state representative, I spent considerable time reviewing this firehouse and its deteriorating conditions, and that was 11 years ago. So I am uniquely familiar with the position each of you are in regarding your vote to fund the project or not. But this project goes beyond just the fire department. The proposed firehouse will serve as a strategic staging location, not only for our firefighters, but also for police, public works, utility crews, and others. This integrated approach fosters seamless coordination during emergencies and large-scale events, enabling faster response times and better resource management. When multiple agencies operate from strategically located hubs, communication is streamlined and lives are saved. For my entire career in Waterford, which spans over 24 years, we have used these firehouses to stage personnel from numerous services during significant storms, flooding, nor'easters, and heavy snow forecasts. Should one part of the town be inaccessible due to road closures, floods, or other reasons, this town has resources placed to ensure we can properly respond to the public in times of crisis. This has been a standard operating procedure for many years and has been successful. In addition, the Oswegatchie Firehouse, along with a couple other firehouses, are emergency voting locations should the town experience any voter disruptions on Election Day. So should you decide to fund the firehouse, I encourage you to leave in place the number of bays proposed. What one may view as wasted space, I view as properly planned emergency preparation, in addition to looking beyond today's needs and ensuring this critical infrastructure supports tomorrow's needs as well. Investing in this firehouse is an investment in public safety and community well-being. It will provide our firefighters with state-of-the-art facilities, including improved training areas, modern equipment storage, and comfortable living quarters, all designed to support their demanding work. Moreover, having staging locations for police, public works, and utility crews on site ensures that critical infrastructure maintenance and emergency repairs can be coordinated swiftly and efficiently. By supporting this construction project, you are reinforcing the town's commitment to our firefighters' safety and the safety of every resident in our community. In closing, I've heard the comments in regards to the fire department staffing, the condition of other firehouses in town, and the overall direction of fire services in Waterford. Working as closely as I do with town leaders and with several fire services directors, I am encouraged that we as a town have taken a multiple path approach to improving our fire services. In the past few years, there have been many successes, to include the creation of captain's positions, a new and improved union contract, an increase in firefighter staffing, a plan for new communications to include state-of-the-art radios and new pagers, and finally a plan to have our first town-owned firehouse. There has not been a tunnel vision approach, but rather a multi-layered focus on ways to improve our fire service, which ultimately improves service to our residents. I thank you.
Mark, thank you. Would you like to submit that for the record? Is that possible? Thank you. Next up for public comment is Vic Ferry.
Good evening, folks. As a former member of the RTM, member of the Board of Selectmen, having served on 4 charter commissions, been a principal in town for 24 years and 51 years associated with Oswegatchie Fire Company, I wanted to present a couple of items to you that I believe you may not have seen. Well, actually, basically one. This is a 5-year project, and it's an upgrade to the fire department that started in 2015. These are the policies, procedures, and guidelines that rule the fire department. I was acting as a consultant and research person to Bruce Miller when we developed this, and it was approved in 2020 and resulted in the creation of the Waterford Fire Department. You have since had 2 directors, the last whom presented you with this document outlining the research that went into the stipulation that we need 5 departments, 3 central departments and 2 satellite departments. And I call them departments, they're really companies. And the notion here is to improve efficiency, and you've had research done by these gentlemen. I'm not going to review the past directors' research, but I'm going to say to you that they come from, 2 of them come from a lot of experience in different communities. I have a degree in research that you paid for, a doctor's degree in research. You paid for that when I was principal at Southwest, giving me 3/4 pay to go get a doctor's degree in administration. And I've used that to assist the fire director, and I continue to do that today at the request of the first selectman. So I'm saying to you, I support the research that they have presented. When I was chairman of Public Protection and Safety in this town, I was asked to serve by the Democrats and replace the Republican chairperson of that committee, Public Protection and Safety. I approached Tommy Dembeck and said, wait a minute, this is not political. I'd like Tommy to stay with me as co-chair so we had a Democrat and a Republican and remove the politics from that position. I'm going to ask you to take a look at the research, to listen to the professionals that have lots of experience. Unless you have more experience than them serving in the fire service, you know, that's fine. Then please, you know, express your opinion. But I'm going to close by saying I've had the pleasure of working with these folks. They've been very effective, and I am duly impressed with the new Director of Fire Services that we have. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening, folks.
Thank you. Next on the list is Jeffrey Craddock.
Got it now. Thank you for giving me this time. I'm here representing veterans that were excluded from the program that the state enacted last year. August, I got a letter saying, you're qualified. My family was ecstatic because I'm 100% disabled. Then in March, we got a letter that the state had said, nope, these boys aren't included. So I went and talked to Paige, and she said, well, file an appeal. So I filed the appeal. I was given my hearing, but I was rejected because there were constraints that they couldn't pass it under. So then I went to Mr. Brule. Then I went to the Finance Committee. And all along, everybody has just been nothing but helpful. So I want to take this opportunity. This is what the bill is for. There's 5 other guys. I met one of them last month at the meeting. As we're walking out, he's a Vietnam vet. He has Agent Orange. He's dying. Even if he gets 1 year out of this, it'll make him feel like, you know, all the crap that we put up with was worth it. But I just wanted to take the time to thank each and every one of you for voting on this because it makes a huge difference to my family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your service.
You're very welcome. My honor.
Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, I'm declaring public comment closed, and we're going to be moving on to item E, reports, committee reports and referrals. Do we have any verbal or written committee reports that anyone would like to give? Anybody? Hearing none. Representative Driscoll.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. We have 2 written committee reports to accept or reject.
Yep. Any verbal reports? Any verbal reports? Just also for some housekeeping, October 6th, I believe, is our final RTM meeting of the term. So if you're a committee chairperson, just be aware. I had sent out an email that it's great to have an annual report done so that the incoming December RTM members will have something to go on off of what was left in committee or what was done in committee. So I'd appreciate those reports to Town Clerk Campo prior to the October 6th meeting. With that, may I get a motion to accept the committee's reports and referrals?
So moved.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you. Moving on to item F. Yes, Representative Driscoll.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what the proper language is for this, but I would like the body to just to consider reversing the order of items 1 and 2 so that we do 2 first, because that could or could not impact.
That
The
is
next language.
exactly the plan.
Thank you.
All right, folks, moving on to transaction and business on the call. Representative Stewart-Gelinas.
Thanks, Paul. I would like to make a motion to move items 4 and 5 to the top of the agenda, since we have Paige and Attorney Avina here, and they are on the clock. And I would, can I add that all in one motion? Yes. And I would like to move item 2 ahead of item 1. So the order of the agenda will be 4, 5, 2, 1, 3.
Everybody got that? 4, 5, 2. Everybody understand what we're doing? All those, any discussion?
That's a motion. We need a second.
Can we get a second? Any discussion? Any discussion? Discussion. Hearing none. There's a motion on the floor to move item 4 to item 1, item 5 to item 2, item 2 to item 3, and item 1 to item 4. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Okay, moving on. Item 1, item 4, that becomes item 1, to consider and act upon a recommendation from the Finance, Wage, and Personnel Standing Committee of the RTM to amend the Waterford Code of Ordinances by adopting sections 3.12.145, exceptions for veterans with TDIU determination, and section 3.12.186, alternate exemption for dwelling or motor vehicle of veteran's surviving spouse. May I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Paige, you have the floor. And Harry, too, as needed, who is the head of the committee.
So just to give a little bit of background regarding the local option that you're considering tonight. Last year, as Mr. Craddock pointed out, the state passed a law effective with the 10-1-24 grand list, allowing for an exemption on the entire dwelling of any veteran with a service-connected permanent and totally 100% disability rating. In the absence of a dwelling, that exemption can be applied to one vehicle owned by the veteran. Unfortunately, the bill last year that was passed was very poorly written, failed to clarify several exemption qualification issues, and in its analysis of the bill's fiscal impact on municipalities, the state also grossly underestimated the number of veterans qualifying for the dwelling exemption statewide. As a result, the state's miscalculation, most municipalities realized a sizable reduction in their 24 grand lists. At the same time, the new statute failed to include certain disabled veterans and their spouses from clearly qualifying for the exemption. So to remedy this, the state has now amended the bill via PA 25-168 to make technical and conforming changes and to extend the 100% P&T dwelling exemption to certain veterans and or spouses via municipal option. So PA 25-168 allows for 4 different municipal options. We can exempt up to 2 acres of the lot of the eligible dwelling that the house sits on. We're not considering that tonight. Extending the exemption to the unmarried surviving spouse of a qualifying veteran who died prior to the law's inception. Also not considering that. We can also limit the total exemption amount of the dwelling to the median assessed value of the residential real property in the municipality. Town is not considering those options for various reasons at this time due to either the fiscal impact of including the land, the inability to quantify or predict how many surviving spouses may qualify prior to the certain date, or the continual fluctuation of median residential values. However, the amended bill does allow us to apply the local option to the following 2 instances. The first is to extend that 100% dwelling exemption for permanent and totally disabled veterans to those veterans with a VA rating of TDIU or service-connected total disability based on individual unemployability. Currently, we have 6 of those individuals that we're aware of in the town that would qualify. If the town opts for the TDIU municipal option, it would provide the 100% P&T dwelling in lieu of the existing exemption that's currently on the books for veterans with TDIU ratings. This is an alternate exemption to the one we already have. The estimate right now is that those 6 TDIU veterans, if we were to exempt those dwellings, would amount to $1,090,020 in assessed value, or about $25,000 in tax loss. The second option is to extend that same dwelling exemption to the surviving Gold Star spouses of anybody that was killed in action. We have 1 person in the town that would qualify for that, which would equate to approximately an additional $5,000 if that option was extended. So those are the 2 local options in front of you tonight.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Representative Driscoll.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. I just wanted to commend our assessor Page and the other town attorney, Avina, for stepping up and wading through a morass of legalese in a very short time frame to enable us to get this done without delaying the exemption for these deserving people for yet another year. So I did appreciate the effort, and I offer my condolences on the new reval schedule.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion on the floor to consider an act upon a recommendation from the Finance, Wage, and Personnel Standing Committee of the RTM to amend the Waterford Code of Ordinances by adopting Section 3.12.145, exemptions for veterans with TDIU determination, and Sections 3.12.186, alternate exemption for dwelling or motor vehicle of veteran surviving spouse. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Okay. And folks, in order to move this along quickly, item 2 is to consider an act on the above matter as emergency legislation and to waive the 15-day waiting period in order to codify as ordinances prior to the October 1st, 2025 grand list date. May I get a motion?
So moved.
Got it. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion on the floor to consider an act on the above matter as emergency legislation and to waive the 15-day waiting period in order to codify as ordinances prior to the October 1st, 2025 grand list date. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 2, which used to be item 3, to act on the yes,
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
recommendation of the Board of Finance of appropriation, yes, of $1 million from the unassigned general fund balance to be approved for upgrades to the town's communication systems as prepared by Motorola, dated August 13th, 2025. May I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Folks, do you want to give your presentation now on the whole thing, and then that way we'll just go from one to the other to make it easier? Come on up. Good evening, gentlemen. You have the floor.
Okay, so I have spoken so many times, I can't remember if I addressed this group or not on this project. I think I have. So where we're at is we have a final proposal, a final design. You've probably seen the numbers. The total project cost is now $6,142,914. We have $1.5 million in, or we have, yeah, I think it's, $1.5 million in bonding right now toward this project. So this project is to replace our old radio system. We are seeing more and more issues with it as time goes by. It is somewhere around 12 to 13 years old. Radio systems are now comprised of a lot of computer-run components. They age out over time. Anybody who's had a laptop or a PC at home knows that after so many years you're replacing it because you just can't load in software anymore that's required to run new applications. And that's where radio systems are at now. They're completely computer controlled, and you get to a point where they don't have the capacity to handle the software that's needed. And parts wear out over time. They're electronics. They see fluctuations in electricity, surges that damage components over the long period of time. So it's gotten to a point where the system needs to be replaced. The option that we're pushing for, going with, is a proposal from Motorola. The state of Connecticut operates on a Motorola system. It's a statewide system. Our system would be connected to that, which would allow, currently, our system operates just in town. If our police, fire, EMS go to another town, they're trying to operate off of our antennas in town, and it gets sketchy as far as coverage goes when they leave town. On the new system, it'll be integrated with the state system and will operate on there's about 65 towers around the state. It works kind of like a cell phone network, so as you travel around, you hit all those towers. So we would have statewide coverage, which we don't have now. The other benefit to this proposal is we will have the interoperability with all the agencies in Connecticut that are on this system, which are many, allowing police, fire, EMS, and others to talk to their counterparts in other towns. So when other towns come here for a mutual aid response for assistance to the town of Waterford or vice versa, we don't have the capability right now to talk with all of our partners. This would give us much more coverage in that regard as well. So in a major incident where a lot of departments are working together, we would have the capacity to talk to each other, which does not exist now. It would allow for much better, faster outcomes responses. So this makes a lot of sense. And if anybody has questions, I'll take questions.
Any discussion? Representative Childs.
So are we only talking about the million right now, or are we talking about the whole?
We're talking about the million, but they're doing the whole presentation now, so.
So if I have a question on the,
Yeah, you'll get
on the
us-
packet,
Yep, yep.
now or later?
Wherever you'd like, you can do it now if you want.
Okay, so, through you, Mr. Moderator, thank you. So in looking through this massive plan, in the very back, it talks about post-warranty support, and it has two different options, and I know they're required. My question is, where might these show up on town budgets? Like, who would be responsible, and where would that show up year after year? You
So
follow me?
we currently have a service contract very similar to this.
Oh, okay,
Cost is almost identical.
so it would just replace,
Correct.
okay. And then I guess my other question was, are there other entities in town that would also need to buy into this program, or this would cover?
This
our-
covers everyone. So Board of Education, senior services vans will have radios, Public Works, utilities, Parks and Rec, they all use the system, and there's no additional cost for that.
Okay, and then I guess the elephant in the room is the Waterford Ambulance Service. Where do they fit into that?
They're also on this system.
So they're a part of our town, we would purchase for them? Is
Yeah,
that-
so currently they have radios in their ambulances that
Right.
are owned by the town.
Okay,
If a contract was ever sought with another ambulance association or company, those radios come back to us and would go to another one.
understood.
So that just enhances our public safety to have everyone on the same network.
Right, I just didn't find them mentioned at all in the itemization, so that's what I was asking.
Yeah, it's a little bit more toward the front where they talk, it talks about the purchase of mobile radios.
Okay,
Somewhere, without flipping too much, it's somewhere between like pages 10 and 13 maybe.
okay, not in the 120s.
No.
Thank you.
Representative Dembeck.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd just like to report that I happen to be on a committee for the existing radio system with Chief Pendleton and a gentleman named Kurt Collar from Public Works. He was one of the foremen at the time. That project was started in 2007 and finished on April 23rd, 2010. That's when this report was turned over to the town to test results for that system, and everything was acceptable, including putting the police boat in the water, putting the fire boat in the water, testing all the streets, testing everything, right? So stop and think about it. That system's been in service for 15 years. And just compare this to your home computer or your computer at work. And your IT department, in which, like the director just explained, there's a service contract with Harris right now. The gentleman out of Massachusetts comes every week, and he keeps it going. But it's 15 years old. I hope this body here will unanimously support this request. It's very important. Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Representative Condon.
I just have a question. How does this interface with our relationship with New London? Because they're on our system now currently, right?
Correct.
So when we move to this, do they know about this and anticipating a change also?
They are. So New London began working on the transition to integrating with the state system probably right around the time we did, which has been about 2.5 years. They've already purchased their mobile and portable radios. Their consoles, I don't know if they're installed yet, but their consoles were being programmed, I know, a couple months ago. So they are right on the verge of being able to go onto the state system. The problem that they have is that they don't have any towers in the city of New London, so they rely on ours. They cannot go onto the state system until we do, and they will continue to be reliant on our system. So we have been working with them since day one on the plan.
May I continue? Just one more. So I just want to make sure I understand. So they're just going to be, like right now they actually run through our equipment. Now we're all going to be on the state system. And other than a tower location, our systems we're going back to a normal relationship other than a tower lease? Like, they pay us now currently $250,000.
It's
If I-
not,
I
it's
may
not
have
quite
that
that much. They pay part of our annual service fee,
So
our service contract. So they, that would have to be worked out still, but they will still be operating through our system. So they will have consoles at their police department, because that's where they dispatch from. They will be connecting to a radio system
Through
through our
us.
towers.
Okay, so that fee is still we're still gonna have to negotiate with the city over a maintenance fee then?
Yes, I don't know where discussions are with that at this point, but yeah, the current setup that we have would have to continue.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Just to- I'm sorry, I just wanted to
okay.
jump in a little bit. So we were able, Steve and Motorola were able to engineer the system down to 3 towers that Waterford would pay for. And because of New London's lack of coverage, the state is putting equipment up on the Minor Lane tower at the state's cost, not Waterford's. So we will benefit from that, but ultimately the state's trying to provide coverage to the city of New London. So added benefit to the town of Waterford.
Chief, so what you're saying is, because it's, and I'm still trying to come up to speed on the state system, so even though they're putting that in for the coverage there, our radios will benefit from having yet another location? Correct. Okay.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Representative Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's not really a question for you, Steve. I'm okay with this. It's actually a question for Kim. It's not a hard one, really. I know that there was much conversation last week at the Board of Finance about all the different options, and I just wondered, do we have a designated line item number yet for town communication systems, or because?
No, we will create that when the project is actually approved, if approved tonight.
Oh, okay. Now, I just wanted to double check as the Board of Finance, their use of bold type is usually reserved for names for designated line items, so I didn't know.
They
But
approved it
this
to a new
will
account.
definitely just go to that one spot. Thank you.
Any, Representative Jelinas.
Just a point of clarification through you, Paul. The item that we're discussing right now is the $1 million from the general fund balance. It's anticipated that there will be grant funding that covers that $1 million. Am I correct?
Yes, correct.
So what we are voting on is to take that million out of our unassigned general fund in anticipation of getting the grant. The $1 million will go back into the general fund when that grant arrives, which takes item 1 from the 4.6 million down to 3.6 million that we are looking to bond.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion on the floor to act upon the recommendation of the Board of Finance for an appropriation of $1 million from the unassigned general fund balance to be approved for upgrades to the town's communication systems as prepared by Motorola dated August 13th, 2025. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Okay, moving on to item 4, which used to be item 1. So bear with me as I read this, folks. To act upon the recommendation of the Board of Finance that an appropriation not to exceed $4.6 million.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, sir,
I'm sorry, I did,
Yep.
with the RTM, just before you get on to the next agenda, would there be an entertainment to waive the $15, because they're on the clock?
15
15-day.
15 day.
Yeah, so
I
Yes.
just wanted to,
Certainly.
Thought you were
All right, we can
circle
do it.
back,
Yeah, we can do it one at a time. So is there a motion to waive the 15-day waiting period? Any discussion? Any discussion? So there's a motion on the floor to waive the 15-day waiting period to move the $1 million appropriation over the finish line. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Oh, there was a hand up? Representative Childs.
Can you just explain why? I missed that
Kim
part.
can explain why we need
It's
to
a
do
contract signing. Go ahead, Kim.
Yes, the quote from Motorola is good for 60 days. So we will be very close to being able to sign a contract with a deposit and get in queue along with securing funding.
And it'll guarantee the rates that we just looked at.
Correct.
All
Thank you.
set?
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion on the floor to waive the 15-day waiting period. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Okay, again, moving on to item 4, which used to be number 1. To act upon the recommendation of the Board of Finance that an appropriation not to exceed $4.6 million be approved for upgrades to the town's communication systems as prepared by Motorola dated August 13, 2025. The appropriation may be spent for design, demolition, renovation, and construction costs, equipment, furnishings, materials, site improvements, survey costs, architect's fees, engineering fees, other consultants' fees, legal fees, net temporary interest, and other financing costs, and other expenses related to the project and financing to authorize the Board of Selectmen to determine the scope and particulars of the project to authorize at the issue of up to $4.6 million bonds or notes and temporary notes to finance in part said appropriation to authorize the first selectman and director of finance to determine the amount, date, interest rates, maturities, redemption provisions from form, and other details to the transfer agent and paying agent for the obligations to designate one or more banks or trust companies to be certifying bank, registrar, transfer agent, and paying agent for the obligations to provide for the keeping of a record of the obligations to designate a financial advisor to the town in connection with the sale of the obligations, to see the obligations at public or private sale, to deliver the obligations, and to perform all other acts which are necessary or appropriate to issue the obligations, to designate Shipman and Goodwin as bond counsel, to approve the legality of the obligations, to declare the town's official intent under federal income tax regulation, section 1.150-2, that project costs may be paid from temporary advances of available funds, that the town reasonably expects to reimburse any such advances from the proceeds of borrowings, to authorize the first selectman and the director of finance to make representations and covenants to maintain the continued exemption from federal income taxation of interest on the obligations, and to make representations and enter into written agreements for the benefit of holders of the obligations to provide secondary market disclosure information, and to authorize the first selectman, the director of finance, and other proper officers and officials of the town to execute and file all necessary applications, agreements, and documents in order to obtain grants to finance the project. May I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Who seconded it?
I,
And any discussion, and just a question, do we have to amend the number
I'm just going to say that.
without reading the entire thing again?
Yes, please do.
Okay, what, Kim, down to 3.6?
Yes, and in 2 locations.
Okay,
Yep.
yep. May I get a, was that a friendly amendment for people? Or yes? All right, did we get a motion in a second? Can we get a motion in a second?
Tom, I'll second.
Any discussion, folks? Any discussion? Representative Driscoll.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. Okay, I thought there'd be more discussion, so I didn't think of what I had to ask you. Again, at the discussion, and kudos to the Board of Finance for thinking out of the box on this. The whole $1 million from the surplus was a way to jumpstart the project and, one, save the taxpayers extra money, and B, help you hit the deadline, because I know this has been dragging on for a long time. So during those discussions, there was much emphasis on the option of, instead of bonding, to look into loans. And I know that Kim had said she had been looking into them. She was pretty confident about getting decent interest rates. One of the advantages of a loan, aside from the fact that, as you said, as soon as the day after I walk in the door, we have the money in our hands, as opposed to waiting God knows how many months before the paperwork goes through for the grant. And also, there is no prepay penalty on the chance that we have some spare money throwing around. We could pay it off, save the taxpayers' interest, be done with it. We can't do that with bonding, so it seemed like a viable option for what is, and this is a relative term, a small amount of money, considering what we usually go for. So my question is, A, have you done any more investigation or narrowed down the possibilities?
Based on current interest rates
Yeah.
and availability, I will most likely recommend to the first selectman that we go through a local Waterford bank for funding this project versus going for a full obligation bond.
Okay. And I have a second question, not for Kim, so you're spared, thanks. As the moderator can attest, there's a lot of words in this motion. Most of them seem to be addressing bonding. That much I can decipher. Bonding councils, blah, blah, blah. Is there anything, is this just standard bonding language? Because I cannot remember the last time we saw something this long in front of us. Or do we need to add the word loan to make sure that's an option on this?
My understanding from bond counsel, when it says bonds or notes, the notes could include bank loans.
Really?
That's what am I being advised.
Cross your heart.
It does not say anticipation notes, it just says notes. That is one of the reasons we kept it at straight notes, because that can be any type of bank loan as well.
Okay. We have you on the record. You should have let
Yep.
Nick answer it. All right. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Town Clerk Campa.
In the past, the legal has read the resolution, which comes next in your packet. But in most cases, we have waived the reading of the resolution, but we need a motion to do that.
Is there a second?
Second?
Yep, it's right after the letter from Glenn. No, right after the item, excuse me. Starts with resolved, section 1.
Everybody okay with waiving the motion of the resolution?
The reading of the resolution.
Excuse me, the reading of the resolution?
I think Sagru made the motion,
Yep.
and who seconded it?
I did.
Sure.
Any discussion? Representative
Yep.
Jelinas?
So we've changed the number to 3.6 throughout this resolution. It is 4.6.
Yeah. I think we could do a friendly amendment with the idea that it's understood that $4,600,000 goes to $3,600,000. Mrs. Driscoll's got a comment.
Yeah, not that I don't trust everyone in this room, but just so it's understood, I would rather have someone say, yes, we're changing it to 3.6 in the resolution, so everything matches.
Okay.
Do we need a motion for that?
Do you
Because
want
we
a motion
didn't.
to correct that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You
So
wanna
I'd like
let-
to make a motion to correct the dollar amount
waive.
in the resolution from 4.6 million to 3.6
And waive the
million.
reading of it.
And waive the reading.
So we'll do it all as one, folks?
Okay, but we kind of took away the motion from him, so if we can just if he can accept that as
You
a,
accept that?
okay.
Thank you. Everybody
And-
all set?
And you accept it,
So we're
sorry,
changing the
Joy.
number in the resolution from 4.6 to 3.6 and waiving the reading of the resolution all in one swoop. Any discussion? Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Now continuing, is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor regarding item 4? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? So there is a motion on the
Mr.
floor.
Moderator? I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Representative Driscoll.
Thank you. I had one more question. I'm sorry,
Certainly.
Steve. The nuclear safety grant that we're waiting for that comes in late spring 2026, I think, if I remember reading the 120 pages. And you said you're applying for it, you're filling out the applications. The $1 million in bonding that the State Bonding Commission awarded in August but it was for a grant and aid, and because their minutes aren't out, you can't tell what it is. That's the same thing. Is this a two-step process where the State Bonding Commission has to allow you to apply or do all the paperwork for the nuclear grant?
No, they're two separate grants.
Two separate grants? Oh,
Yep.
okay.
So that grant from the bonding commission is that $1 million grant. It's a 5-year grant cycle, so that grant is good for 5 years. The nuclear safety grant is a totally different grant.
okay.
That one's only good for 1 year.
Ah.
So it's a quick, this is a long project. That's the problem with that
Yeah.
grant, is this is a long project that can it could start before the start of the grant cycle and it can end after. So the issue that we ran into was the language is very specific about spending it during that time period.
Yeah.
So they're working on amending that language for us.
Oh, okay,
I
good.
don't know if that will happen, but that's what they're trying to do right now.
All right, thank you.
All set? Any other discussion? Representative Lindsay.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, should we also waive the 15-day waiting period for this motion also?
Yeah, we will do that just like we did last time, right after we decide what we're doing here.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, there is a motion on the floor to approve the communication upgrades with the stated figures. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? The ayes have it. May I entertain a motion to waive the 15-day waiting period on the previous motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 3, to consider an act on accepting the Fire Services Review Special Committee's final report with its recommendation that no further action is required by the RTM at this time. May I get a motion?
So moved.
Got it? Good, you got it? I believe Attorney Keppel has a brief statement to make. Oh, yes. I'm sorry, gentlemen. Why don't you give the report first, and then we'll go to Attorney Keppel. Sorry about that, Attorney Keppel.
Nope.
You have the floor, gentlemen.
All right,
Good
thank you.
evening.
Bob Teneski, Chairman of the Fire Services Special Review Committee. Just want to read an opening statement and then stand for questions. Thank you and the Board of Finance for the opportunity to serve on the Fire Services Special Review Committee. It was rewarding, insightful, and educational. The committee was formed 4 years ago and supplied fire services-related information by the advisory team members and mostly from our previous Director of Fire Services. The information was distilled and organized into an informational report. It's educational, has recent data, some general interpretations, and some ideas for future action. I hope the RTM finds it useful. Lastly, here are some key takeaways from my Fire Services Committee experience. Fire services is a dynamic business. What is true this year may be different next year. As the town changes, so must the ability to protect its people and property. As a result, the town's fire services are continually evolving. Directing fire services is complex. There are many factors and considerations that go into the decisions made in directing and managing fire services. Overall risk assessments, maintaining certifications, calibrations, and compliance with standards, records management, equipment procurement, maintenance, and testing, resource hiring and general staffing, training, emergency response times and types, annual budgets, facilities maintenance, and so on. It is not a simple calculation, but rather a series of factors which must be weighed and carefully evaluated. Lastly, the process of managing fire services, of weighing and evaluating the factors above that I just mentioned, sorting through relevant and irrelevant information, assessing and assigning priorities for action, developing relevant plans and procedures, and deploying resources to address them, is best accomplished by an expert, professional Director of Fire Services. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chris, you have anything to add, or just going to stand for questions? All right. So, Attorney Keppel, you have the floor, sir.
Good evening. I just want to share the opinion that's been circulated this evening pursuant to questions that have arisen in a couple of instances regarding the extent to which the review committee met their quote-unquote charge. Essentially, what my opinion indicates is that even though their original charge in 21 used language like a steering document and a strategic plan. In my opinion, in reviewing the town charter and relevant ordinance, that was an inappropriate charge for an RTM review committee, because essentially because the RTM, while having profound influence over fire services by funding, by budgeting and by adopting ordinances, so there's no question, basically fire services can't run in Waterford without the involvement of the RTM. That involvement is limited to funding and adopting or amending ordinances. It isn't developing a strategic plan or a quote-unquote steering document for the fire department. That role is expressly granted pursuant to an ordinance adopted by this body that gives the fire director the responsibility of running the fire services, including developing a 5-year plan. So, if you look at it from a standpoint of an analogy, the RTM provides the fuel for the fire truck, for the operation of the fire service department, but it doesn't steer that vehicle. That role is performed by the fire director pursuant to to the delineation, distribution of responsibilities in Waterford government. So I think because the Fire Services Review Committee is specifically a body of the RTM, comprised of a majority of votes from the RTM. So it's an RTM entity, and it's just inappropriate. It's for an RTM entity to be steering and developing a strategic plan for the operations of the fire department is, in my opinion, would be an ultra vires act by the RTM. It's outside the bounds of what the RTM should be involved in. Like I say, this body developed an ordinance that gives that express responsibility to the of running the fire department to the fire director. As many folks here who've been around a while know, we had a fire commission that essentially, if you will, ran fire services on behalf of the town in coordination with the private fire departments, fire companies. That was changed by charter to a fire department run by a fire director, and that's who is supposed to be doing operations. And so that's my thought about any claim of an omission, or which by the way, as the minutes reflect, I've expressed this view to the Fire Services Review Committee.
Attorney Keppel, Representative Khan.
Through you, Paul. So I'm just a little confused. If this is such an inappropriate charge, why are we talking about it now?
Well, because the question's been raised about, in Mr. Alunzu's letter and in comments by both Mr. Condon and Ms. Driscoll, Representative Condon Driscoll, raised the question about whether this committee was, quote unquote, meeting its charge. And I was not lead counsel in 21 when the charge was provided. By the way, it's worth noting that as further bit of background, the charge by when the RTM, bear with me for a second. Of course, I can't find it. In 21, when Representative Condon's committee came forward with the Public Safety Committee came forward with a recommendation for a, thank you, I found it, for a committee, what, I do have it, thank you. What the what the Standing Committee of the RTM recommended on May 24 of 2021 was a charge that said to review and propose possible changes to the Waterford Fire and Emergency Services in the interest of public safety. That was then morphed at the June 7, 21 meeting into a charge that included a creation of a steering document and policy and a strategic plan. So, I mean, the good news is that the review committee, as its closing remarks reflect, they did what they were asked to do, which is meet with stakeholders, the representatives from non-voting members of the committee, collaborate efforts with predecessors to Director Haley, and they've come forward with a 50-page round numbers report with a 50-page appendix with, all kinds of very useful information, serving as an overview of how the fire service in Waterford operates, which having been around for 20 years or so, I found it extremely informative and helpful. And I think that's the spirit in which the committee has brought forth this document.
All set, Representative Khan? Representative Driscoll.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Attorney Keppel. Well, I respect your opinion, and I've been accused on more than one occasion of defying the authority of the town attorney or the first selectman. I'm not attempting to do that now. We have a difference of opinion in its interpretation of language. I know you are used to legal documents. We are used to doing semi-legal documents that work for the average person. When the charge was written to include a strategic plan, that was so that there would be a specific document with information to come back to the RTM. The strategic plan mentioned, your interpretation seems to be that we asked the Fire Services Review Committee to create a strategic plan specifically to be implemented by the fire services. That was not the intent. The strategic plan was meant to look at all of the services involved, at the serious issues there were. How could the town help them fix this? What do they need? What are the problems? The intent was to have the fire services director sit at the table, and the emergency management director, and Waterford Ambulance Service, and members from the career and volunteers, and get their input, their concerns. What do we need? What do we have? What do we need? How can we fix it? We have people from the Board of Finance on there. Yes, 3 members of the RTM. Because sometimes it's a question of money, which, as you said, we have authority over money. Not as much as the Board of Finance, but we do. Sometimes it's a question of ordinances are not right, or the will of the people, or we need to prioritize this. How do we make it happen? They need the support of the boards. The boards need to know there are issues. We are the last line. We hear from so many people from on the street, citizens with problems that have been going on forever. No one has ever come to us. We don't know. It's too late for us to help. Here we were trying to get not a jump start, because we were 10 years behind. We had serious problems with fire and rescue services at the time. We wanted to take a look and say, we're all going to be here at the same table, at the same time, hearing the same stories. Let's find out what the situation really is. Let's find out how much it really costs us, because the numbers just get made up as we go along. What do you need? What's the priority? That's why we had the fire services director there, the former one, who was scrambling to find the information because of the 10 years that preceded wasn't available, and to straighten out some things. And he did some heavy lifting. And I know there's a ton of work to do. And Chris has jumped in with both feet and indefatigable attitude, so kudos. The plan that was requested was to be detailed, was to be documented. We have a bunch of old studies with no data, no justification for why we need it. We don't always understand. Part of the learning process was someone would say, we need this, and we would look at them dumbly, having no idea why. Chris has explained a couple of things most recently from a whole different angle, and we've been able to figure things, why. Our last conversations on fleet management plan, RTM does have authority over that, so does the Board of Finance. RTM creates the ordinance, designs it. So if we have input, we know there are changes that need to be updated. We started the fleet management plan in 2009. It hasn't been looked at. We all know there's quirky problems. It seems to be a serious quirky problem as far as fire services is. Partway through our 4-year tenure, Steve Sinagra explained he laid the groundwork for this communication system upgrade. And so he talked to, so you heard it, so you could talk to the Board of Finance and give them heads. So we could tell the RTM, this is the plan, this is why we need it, this is what we'll do. It was a head start. It's supposed to be a help for all of us. It's supposed to be a document with information. A vote to accept or a vote to reject is not, because this is a committee report, as Attorney Keppel pointed out, is not an opinion on any of the, if there are recommendations in there, it's not an opinion. You don't like that one, you reject it. It's literally, did they fulfill their charge? This document is passed to the RTM, and if they accept it, then it's up to the members of the RTM as we move along, and it'll be a new group at this point, but as we move along, to look there and say, does this need to be done? Has this already been addressed? What can we do here to help it? We pick, we choose, we put them through the committee process again. We do not dictate how the fire director runs his office. We do not dictate how the emergency management director runs his office. We do not dictate how Waterford Ambulance Service runs their services. They're a contractor, and they stopped coming halfway through. We are still waiting for information on them. So that continues to be a long-standing issue. So I would just like to say, this report is not designed. A vote on this report has no effect on the vote on the Oswegatchie Fire Station. Those two got somehow combined in people's minds in the beginning, and that's not it. The vote to accept is, yes, you fulfilled your charge. Yes, you gave us the data we were looking for. Yes, you gave us critical information and spelled out some steps that we can do. A vote to reject says, no, we think it fell short. Either vote can have subsequent actions. A vote to accept means it'll go to the RTM. It could sit in the bowels of the town clerk's office and no one looks at it again, or it could be dug up and we move forward. But it has documented, it's a jump start for anybody moving forward as we're trying to make positive changes. How's that? And a vote to reject, it could be multiple tiered. It could say, nope, we don't think you went all the way. Try again. We could say, nope, we don't think you went all the way, but out of mercy for the beleaguered chair, who's been pulling double duty, we'll let the next term reset and send a new one. There are multiple options, but again, it is not a mandate. We are not exceeding our authority. We are here to relay concerns of the people to the people who serve them. We are here to make life easier for our department heads to do the right thing. And that was the goal.
All set?
Yeah, that's
Thank
the end of my speech.
Thank you. Any other discussion? And Representative Morissette.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Moderator. I'm embarrassed to admit how much time I've thought about the Fire Services Committee's work and the direction that this town is going in. It's really been something that I've been thinking a lot about, because I do think you see many, many sides of what people want and don't want. So I read, the report. I found that the most helpful, the most concrete information that I was able to get from it was actually from the previous chief's information, Chief Howley. So just two questions. And I really liked the recommendations that he had made regarding initiatives to recruit and to retain. So my first question is, how will the recommendations made in this report moving forward, how will the recommendations be decided upon, monitored, and adjusted as needed, like a quality assurance team? Because it's we all have the best of intentions, but time gets away from us, obviously. And then my other question is, has there ever been, and I mean no offense with this question, has there ever been a conversation around going back to having a fully staffed force with volunteers? You know, people can volunteer, but it seems like we don't have a whole lot of volunteers. So those are my two questions. Thanks. And I can repeat them if you want, because they were long-winded.
To the first point, I believe the final section of the chairman's report speaks to, encouraging, revisiting, at predetermined intervals. But I know that it's one of my charges also to maintain and deliver a 5-year plan at regular intervals, as well as annual reports that close out the audit years. So there, hopefully we can, work to improve the transparency and be more responsive to the inquiries that the members of this membership has, as well as just the general public, and open up some of that transparency and have those ongoing conversations and use those annual reports to not only just detail like the audit and financial side of things, but also some of the bright spots and things that we're moving forward to, and hopefully the things we're moving towards. So that echoes the first portion of the of your question. And for the second portion, no, I think that since the early 60s, there's always been a full-time or a paid, and then through the mid-60s, a full-time firefighting portion to the force in this town. I don't know if that's as publicly understood as it has been in the recent years, as the emphasis on the decline of the volunteer system has become more at the forefront. But for over 6 decades, you've had full-time firefighting in the town of Waterford, and I believe that the direction forward is to focus more on the transition to a baseline of a career force supplemented by a volunteer force. Hope that answers it, or both of them.
Any other discussion? Representative Berchalli.
Through you, Paul. I just wanted to say that I have not looked at the committee report. I'm brutally honest. I'm not going to look at it because we have hired you. I sat through your presentation. My husband sat through 2 of them. I think if there's any question left after your presentation, then I just don't think you could have hit on anything else. I've seen people that have questions about the fire service not show up to your presentations. I've seen members of the public who like to come here and complain about it not show up. So I think it's personally, sometimes we have our hands in too many pots here. I think it's time, we hired you. I'm really impressed. I don't know you aside from this. So I think it's time to close it out and let you do your job. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Representative Childs.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator. So I've been to both presentations that have been at local elementary schools. And when I attended the June Fire Services meeting at the police department, it was mentioned that incorporating some of Director Haley's data and information would be really important in this report. And I think I'm frustrated that what showed up in the live presentations at the schools doesn't mirror the way that I would have thought, I would have anticipated that it would show up. And I understand this report is a stamp on this in time for what we have right now, or what the report says now. I just wish that some of the information that Director Haley has been saying out loud in public could have shown up in this report. If we're going to stamp it today, it would have been, in my opinion, that would have been important to include. So, thank you.
Any others? Representative Condon.
I just want to respond to a few things. This committee was born after we had a fatal fire here in town, and it was recognized by members of the public that we had some massive failure points. The mechanism of how we got to where we are, it was Ted Alinsu and I wrote a letter. It was put into the Public Protection and Safety Committee and debated for 6-8 months where legal was present. We came up with the charge. It was changed on the fly. I think I understand Nick's legal analysis, but it hinges on his definition of steering document and strategic plan, to which, if you hold his definition, then his legal assessment is spot on. However, I don't think we share the same definition of those words. The point of this steering document was not to take over control of the fire department. It was recognized after the fatal fire that we had to, as a community, change our fire service, and it was beyond the scope of a simple, I shouldn't say simple, but beyond the scope of the director alone. So what we came up with was a swatch of every single board and agency that had to deal with public safety. It wasn't simply an RTM board, and in my opinion was viewed in the same way how we form a building committee or a long-range planning committee. The strategic plan was because we also had the Oswegatchie building festering after it was voted down, and it had to come off of the no track that it was on. A decision had to be made. The decisions that this swath of government was asked to make was because, and we can see some of this now, is we had Bruce Miller as our director, and he retired, and he had an opinion. And then we had Chief Howley, and he had an opinion. And now we have Director Haley, and he has an opinion. The issue is these massive inputs that we're being asked to make cost millions of dollars, and these things can't shift on a dime. And this community would have to buy into a program, not into the nitty-gritty of how to stretch a hose line, but in how are we going to, what is our system going to look like? Are we going to support Oswegatchie? Do we need X amount of people, not to usurp the director's authority, but because we should be able, as a community, swap out any one of us and see some vision move forward. So Ms. Childs accurately pointed out that her frustrations or some of the things in this report aren't the same things she saw with Director Haley's well-prepared statements. That's the issue, is Director Haley and Howley are two different people and had two different visions, and the community needed a vision, a strategic plan, not a strategic plan to run the fire service, but as a group. That's why we had the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, RTM, and members of every swatch of EMS fire. So I don't think that this committee has met its charge because, again, what Ms. Childs just said, I feel wholeheartedly is that I don't have a problem with Director Haley's vision, but the community as a whole, especially since we're going to be asked to vote on the reconstruction or new construction of a firehouses, we have to lay a foundational cornerstone of where we're going so that when new people, us included as RTM members, some of us cycle in and out, a first selectman, a director, legal, that the community has a plan, so we're not shifting. Director Howley, for example, had a different staffing plan than Director Haley does. This body voted to add a body based on Director Howley's vision, and we bought into that, and now the new director has a different vision. I'm not saying one was right or wrong. I'm saying you put real dollars behind a vision, the gentleman's gone, and now we're moving in a different direction. So this was to put an even keel on what we're doing, because we're going to be, this is not like any other department. The volunteer system is dying. And since 2017, per the state comptroller, the state of Connecticut has seen a 62% decrease in volunteers. It can be expected, while the town of Waterford currently only has 15 active volunteers, in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be a fully paid fire department. It's going to happen, because the precipice that we're falling off is so great. So how do we prepare for those types of things? That's what this was meant to be, and I don't think it hits those benchmarks.
Set. Any other discussion? Representative Linsu.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. First, I'd like to commend you, Bob, and your committee members for lasting 4 years on a project. I've been working with you on the building committee for Archagachi for 2 years, and I think we've had it and brought it to a resolution and a completion. But I'm disappointed to an extent that I look at the charge that was done in 21, which calls for recommendations, steering documents, and a strategic plan. I addressed this in my letter that you all have, and I essentially in my letter go back to the report that was done in 1994, 30 years ago, where it was a very thorough report that listed strengths of the department, weaknesses, threats, and recommendations, and they were very thorough. And if you look through the itemized list of recommendations, a lot of the items that were listed 30 years ago, the problems, the issues, still exist today. So I don't know if you made reference to that document when you were doing your research, but I think Vic can verify with me that that was a thorough report. And to end, your recommendations, so I don't see any recommendations. I see a lot of verbiage and reports regarding a strategic plan, staffing, repairs to our other firehouses, fleet management. So there were a lot of discussions in your documents, but you summed it up on page 43, where you say that the fire administrator, I think that was misstated. I think you should have been the director of fire services. And the first selectman shall annually monitor the effectiveness of the fire services. Well, this is being done already. I don't know why you have to really re-point that out, but the second one really bothers me the most is your recommendation is the RTM shall reappoint a fire services review committee to form the assessment functions like the plan of conservation and development. So here you're recommending that your committee continue on under maybe another leadership, and I'm wondering if this body is willing to, tonight, if you accept this report, to assign another service review committee. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Gentlemen, first, I want to, hang on a second, Sue. I want to thank you both. I concur with what Ted said. Bob, you're an unpaid volunteer elected official, and you deserve a lot of credit for the 4 years of work that you've done. My second thing is I read this, and we are being taped for the people at home, and I attended all 3 of the informational sessions. And thank you, Director Haley, for doing that. It was eye-opening. I think more people should attend, and I hope you do it again and again over a scheduled time period to allow people to understand what's going on. When I talk to people in our community, they still don't understand. We have a Waterford Fire Service, but yet we don't own a single building, and the Oswegatchie building is ownership based on conditions. So we don't own a single building, and I think it's important for the people that may watch this at home to understand that. We may be one fire service, but we don't own a single building. And you've touched upon that in your traveling roadshow, if I may, to help inform people. In addition to that, because when we talk about emergency management services that include fire, we have a Waterford Ambulance Service. People think we own our Waterford Ambulance Service. It is a private company that's licensed by the state of Connecticut. So when we talk about a Waterford Ambulance Service, that is completely separate from the Waterford Fire Service, but it is charged with an extremely important function, because when you read this report, most of our calls are medical. And yes, we have R1s, and firefighters could be the first on the scene because they're well-trained and able to do that job, but we still are required to have an ambulance there in a timely fashion. So I think it's extremely important that we don't just have a job to make sure we are protecting our town, but our citizens are fully educated and informed into how these services are operating and run. And I think you've touched upon the private-public partnership, and I think it's extremely exciting and extremely, I'm thrilled that you were able to negotiate and the members of the Oswegatchie Fire Service doing what they did, recognizing the importance of having town-owned public safety. I actually had a citizen explain to me, aren't we like the police department? We own our police department. We don't own our fire departments. And I think it's extremely important to get that information out to our public any way, shape possible. In addition to that, I really have one question, Chris. This informational packet, which I think provides you a wealth of information, does this help you move forward, to help you give you information to run our fire services in a better informed manner?
Yes, I think that it provides a framework and to guide off of, but as has been reported numerous times, we talk about an evolving business. Some of these things were first in their genesis 3 to 4 years ago. I like to hopefully echo some of the sentiments in there that things have already started to take a positive direction since the impetus of that committee and that review. I've met with a good portion of your membership here through the, as you said, traveling roadshow. I've had nothing but positive interactions with them. I think that it's been a learning experience for all sides. Myself, I'm taking in just as much as I think I'm putting out. So I've been very appreciative of those of you that have come to meet in the office. I've interacted with a half a dozen of you there, and probably twice that many at the traveling roadshows. And I'm more than welcome to review any of that as well for people that are interested in some of that stuff as well. But I also echo your sentiments and hope that we can eventually have 24 representatives working on our behalf, 24+ representatives working on our behalf, putting the messaging out there to the people. Because as you have stated, one of the things that I've met with the generally I guess non-insiders that come to these things or non in the know is that there is a lot of opportunity to educate and interact with people and things like that. And I need all of your help to do that as well, to go back to your constituents and increase my vast reach. I only have one mouth. It doesn't seem to stop when those presentations begin, but it can never outgun 24+ mouths. So I would definitely appreciate your support in spreading out some of that good word as well. So but that's a long rambling answer, but
Thank you. Any other discussion? Representative Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's not discussion. You can rest now. Okay. I'd like to amend the motion. I'd like to delete all of the words following report. This is merely a vote to consider and act on accepting the Fire Services Review Special Committee's final report. The committee did not, as the chair put in his letter, we debated that phrasing and we voted not to include it in our final presentation. Also, there is no accepting or rejecting it. There is no immediate action. This is a document not for Chris to use to look at every day and check and see. It's for us to say what still needs to be done, how we can do it. That is for the future. But more importantly, saying the RTM, I'm sorry, Attorney Keppel, but that just offends me. Telling the RTM, you can take no further action. No. If there's action to be taken, there's action to be taken. So it's inapplicable, it's inappropriate, and we did not vote for it. So short answer, make it accurate. Did we get a second? Oh, friendly amendment. Thank you. Oops.
I'd like to, before we move on to the acceptance of the report, I'd like to make a quick comment about Representative Valenzu's comments. You're citing, Ted, of the Fire Commission's recommendations was from a time when the Fire Commission, instead of a fire director, was in charge of fire services. So we're actually on the same page that it should be the body that's charged with the responsibilities that is making recommendations. I would, and Tim and Sue, Representative Condon and Driscoll, I would just commend to the RTM the minutes of the June 24th Fire Services Review Committee, in which Representative Condon, in his zeal, because I know he cares so much about fire services, writes a 2-page letter that I won't read in its entirety, but directed at the other Fire Services Committee members. As one of our main recommendations, this is quote, we must come up with a method for staffing the Waterford Fire Service. Staffing model must be consistent with the current method of 3 personnel. One of the main takeaways I wish to stress is Quick Hill Fire Station. I would like to offer the following staffing model and recommendation for discussion. Then he makes 9 different specific recommendations about assignment of staff the Cohansey Station with 2 firefighters, on and on and on. Then follows with 10 recommendations about fleet management, very specific of where vehicles should be placed. That's the sort of recommendation that obviously Representative Condon was seeking. These are a few of the notes and recommendations from last meeting meant for further discussion. So clearly, there was a desire to have this report get into the nitty-gritty of who staffed where, what vehicles are where. That I stand by my opinion that level of detail about fire service operations is not a task for the RTM. If the RTM wants to amend ordinances or respond to a budget proposal because of what the fire service director has brought forth, open season, you can exercise the enormous influence this body has over how fire service operates by responding to a budget proposal. But I don't think it's reasonable or appropriate to castigate a 4-year effort by a review committee to help educate the community about the way the Waterford Fire Service functions, and to discuss 50 pages of ideas with another 50 pages of supporting material about whether it's fleet, staffing, mutual aid, all kinds of issues. But to be frustrated that it wasn't specific enough for the RTM is, to me, problematic. Then the other thing, Sue, if I may, because you've moved on to, as you know, there's provisions in the ordinance about committee reports, and it's not, in my opinion, the best piece of, it's hard to figure out. You got standing committees, and then you got special committees, and then you've got special committees in different circumstances where they do or they don't make recommendations. But you have to read the entire thing in different instances, but there are provisions that say, that basically you can, essentially, I read them as saying that if you don't make recommendations, then you tender your report and the committee is dissolved. But you're also, there's other parts that say, special committees shall be dissolved, 2.04.070. Special committees shall be dissolved after their charge has been completed and they have formally reported back to the RTM with recommendations for action or no action. Then later on in 204.090, committee minutes and reports, there's language that says, reports with recommendation, and it goes on to say, a vote by the RTM to accept the recommendation shall be conducted upon receipt of that report. Any action recommended by a committee requires that item to be brought up under the proper order of business for discussion and vote. I believe in my discussions with Chairman Teneski, the sense in which he communicated that it was the recommendation of the committee that no further action be taken by the RTM was because the report has no specific recommendation of action by the RTM. And so that's why the only action that needs to be taken is to accept the report, because no follow-on action is requested by the committee. And further, in the minutes of the September 10 meeting, which were filed today, you indicate, Representative Driscoll, that the RTM can vote to accept or vote to reject, or they can somehow task this committee with going back and doing more. And I don't see anything in the rules about committees that gives the RTM the authority to do anything like that.
Representative Berchalli.
Through you, Paul, I just have a question I don't know if anybody can answer. We have a senior commission, we have a police commission, we have a utilities commission, we have the Rec and Park, it's not a commission, but it's
It is a commission.
it is a commission. We used to have, and you might hate me for saying this, we used to have a fire commission. What happened?
Charter revision.
In 2011.
So why did they get rid of it? To me, my recommendations come from my senior commission. When people have a problem, they go to Rob, or they go to Danny, or Terry, or they go to the senior, one of the commissioners. So someone has, I don't feel personally they should be coming to an RTM committee that is not involved in the daily workings of this department. Now, Tim, you have way more experience. I don't. I have a volunteer husband, so I don't know enough about it, which is my point. They shouldn't be coming to me to go to you. They could call you, or if there was a commission, they could go to a commission. So that's just, I wondered why it was dissolved. I can find that out later, but to me, they shouldn't be coming to RTM members for different departments in town. That could be a nightmare. And it should be a commission's question. Thank you.
Representative Driscoll.
Thank you. If I might, I can answer your question about the Board of Fire Commissioners. That was part of the 2010 Charter Review Commission. They spent 18 months interviewing people on various issues and making recommendations that later went onto the ballot. Members of the Board of Fire Commissioners came to the Charter Review Commission. I know because I was there. I still have my yellowed paper notes because there's no electronic version. And actually the chair, when he wrote the final recommendation, quoted an unnamed fire commissioner who said, "The system is dysfunctional. This is no longer working. We need a new system." There was no specific recommendation, but there were issues back then, and they were uncomfortable with that. I believe it switched to Board of Fire Chiefs, which is pretty much the same people, I think, and that eventually just went away, and I'm not sure how that happened. We found out after the fact. And I'm trying to remember. Yes, Attorney Avina, if you're reading committee report and a committee report, we probably should have not just started calling it a report in the committee because it didn't occur to me that someone would use the same two words to describe something else. Those ordinances were written, as we said before, in 2019 under the prompting of the other town attorney because we were in violation of FOI. We had no records. We had no documentation. We had, I believe the moderator can remember the days when we had items sitting in committee for 6 years. They had a cryptic description scribbled down by the town clerk, and no one had any idea what the issue was, what the problem was it fixed, was it done? So we had to spell out in detail these things. At the time, there was no such thing as a super special committee, which is the new term for this one, which had a broader charge than most. Standing committees are different. They get one issue, one thing, easy in, easy out recommendation. We do an ordinance. Their charge was to provide us with recommendations, which we cannot vote. Nobody's going to vote on 50 pages of recommendations, I would think, in one single night. It is literally recommendations for the RTM to consider. Then the RTM can go back and decide whether they should act, or if the situation has changed, or if we have a new fire director. And as far as directing the fire director, Director Howley, Chris, who jumped in right at the end, the purpose of them being on this very unique committee was to ask them, what do you need? How can we help you? The example you gave of Mr. Condon's and his 10 recommendations for different staffing options and everything. Actually, I think we didn't even talk about that. But I can say with confidence that it was literally to get out there, look at these options. It's much more visual. This is a brainstorming thing, a cooperative effort. We think this will work. We think this will work. But we relied on the fire director for specific details, such as staffing. You give us the optimum that you need. How long, this is what we have. How long will it take us? How can we help you make that happen? This is an upsell. This is going to cost money. All we ever hear is that paid guys cost us more. There's an upside and downside. We're not telling the fire director. He was on that committee so that any recommendation that came out of that committee would only be accepted if it was accepted by the expert in charge. So we were not trying to overstep our boundaries. We were trying to make informed decisions.
All set, Sue. Representative Condon.
I just want to address what Nick said. I stand by those comments with the zeal they were stated at the time. I would maintain to this day. The comments were made after a staffing proposal was made on the floor during the budgetary process, where I asked the then director, Howley, what the staffing plan was. He stated that he wanted 3 and 3 at the time, and there was different opinions after his departure of what the staffing plan would look like. All of this, all these recommendations were to spurn discussions. I just want to make sure everybody understands, one of the recommendations that did come out of this body was to build a new firehouse. That is massive. It's a massive recommendation. And to say that you don't understand how you get there in a vacuum, you have to understand it's just a building. So if I'm not going to staff it properly, if I'm not going to put the right vehicles in it, if I'm not going to operate the entire system around it to dovetail in, those are the questions. So everything in my letter was wildly appropriate to ask because I was actually trying to reinforce the decisions that committee had already made prior to me. And the reason that I have such, again, zeal on this is because the only thing that we have moving forward is documentation. Again, I've said it before, we had people who came in here and were defending not having to pay for open lane swim. And the only reason that a lot of us were able to help defend them was because we had a 40-year-old document that said when we built the pool, we weren't going to do it. This is so somebody 10 years from now is going to say, why did they build that building? Why did they do that? That makes no sense in 2032. Oh, here's a document. That's why they did it. You don't have that. And that's what I was trying to help you build. And I will also say that with the comments about the fleet, I've already made a recommendation, which is already before the board to help. And that came out of this committee through great conversations that I had with the director and trying to pick his brain on where he saw the fleet looking. And those are the types of things that we were looking for. So I stand by everything that letter said and the time frame it was set in.
If I may, to echo the tail end of Representative Condon's comments, it seems that there's this general malaise hanging over this entire discussion, this back and forth and whatnot. But I do believe there are a number of positive things that came out of that. One of the other, I believe, massive, to quote Representative Condon's things, is the discussion that these are privately owned entities. I don't know if that was out there. I think some of the larger intricacies of how the department as a whole operates, I think there's a number of positive things that came out of this. And I'll be as candid as I may, I guess. I do hope that I can pull you out of this, out of all of this. Because in the time that we're talking about the technicalities and wordings of an amendment or whatnot, those sirens have gone by this building 4 times. And I hope that I can bring you out of this, whatever this may be. And I can bring some confidence and belief in the system that we're going to deliver for you, hopefully. And not necessarily just me, but all of us. I really hope that I'm able to. That may be the largest undertaking of all of this, is trying to get everyone to get where I think we all want to get to. I think everyone wants to get there. And I don't take that obligation or that undertaking or that burden very lightly. I understand that there's generations of beliefs, ideas, passions, fears, hopes, dreams, successes, and failures that have led us to this. And it often feels like I'm sailing a ship through a storm, but I believe that we are going to get there, especially for a coastal community with a strong seagoing trend in history. I hope that that's a fitting analogy. And I do hope that I will never need counsel for me to support that I'm trying to work in your best interest and your constituents' best interests, and that the department is not trying to do what is best for all of you. I hope that you'll never be able to say that we're not responsive to hearing your concerns or trying to deliver our very best effort on them at any given time. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Can I make one quick comment?
You certainly may, Representative Teneski, or Chairman Teneski.
Right. It's starting to feel that way. So I just wanted to agree with what Susan said. My interpretation of the forwarding memo is what I thought I understood from having talking to you about what it needed to say. So I wasn't suggesting that the RTM doesn't have to take any other action. RTM can do whatever they feel like they want to do, and I would look at that as being elective. But I really thought that based on our conversation, since there was no specific or explicit recommendation in the report, that there was no further action required except to accept the report. So sorry for the misunderstanding if that's what we had.
Any other discussion? Representative Morissette.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator. Just a quick question before I forget. I was told that, and this is for clarification purposes, I was told that the town cannot make repairs to the fire stations because they are privately owned. Is that true?
No, that's untrue. We do currently have the authority and ability to repair them, yes.
That's
absolutely.
what I thought. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Any other discussion? Representative Monahan.
Okay, I'm going to be serious for a moment through you, moderator. To help you get through this, because this is rough. I'll be in prayer for you and for the town of Waterford, because we really need to work together to get some resolution on this. So the power of prayer is deep, and the RTM can join me if they want to. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, there is a motion on the floor to consider an act on accepting the Fire Services Review Special Committee's final report. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Raise your hands if you're opposed, please.
Roll call.
All right, roll call vote.
A yes is to accept it.
Yep, point of information, go ahead.
It's my understanding that an affirmative vote on this is not to accept necessarily accept all the text in the report, just accepting that the report.
We're expecting the report, we're accepting the report as informational.
Okay, so it's not a vote on whether or not you agree with the report.
Correct.
Where it's, okay, thank you.
Ms. Agman Bosa.
No.
Mr. Bono.
Yes.
Ms. Brashali.
Yes.
Ms. Childs. No. Mr. Colonis. Yes. Mr. Condon. No. Mr. Dembeck.
Yes.
Ms. Driscoll. Mr. Fioravanti. No. Mr. Goldstein.
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez. Ms. Green.
No.
Mr. Healy. Ms. Jessic. Mr. Keatley. Ms. Khan. Ms. McKenzie. Mr. Monahan. Ms. Mooreshead. Mr. Muckle. Ms. Mullen.
No.
Ms. Mullen Cole. Mr. Olinsu. Ms. Stewart Jelinas.
Yes.
Mr. Segru. 13 to 12, it passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I think Mr. Teneski would like a formal motion on the record that the RTM disbands the Fire Services Review Special Committee. Oh, good God.
Attorney Capel, being that this is a special meeting, we are allowed to disband the committee, or is it automatically assumed that it's disbanded based upon our action tonight?
It doesn't hurt to just say it.
My reading of the rules that I quoted is that if it's been tendered and a vote, then it's dissolved automatically by virtue of the rules. So with all due respect to my...
Oh, no, don't blame him. I just used his name. I'm sorry, I got confused when you were reading the rules and I couldn't remember which way it went for a special committee, so.
For a special committee with no recommendations, they tender their report and it gets dissolved, and that's what happened.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that he was released from his bonds.
So therefore, may I get a motion to adjourn, please? Motion, second. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed? Abstention? Ayes have it. Thank you, folks. See you on October 6th.